you need some? No, I don't need any.
I hope each of you have had an opportunity to shake hands with Dr. Gunn.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me just briefly kind of give you a little bit of an update, which brought us to where we are. So, we had a search. We did not use a firm this time. We used a firm the last time. We advertised in various professional magazines. We advertised also through the state superintendent's group, through Alabama Association of School Boards, and, you know, got the word out that way. We had about 40 applicants. We narrowed it down one way or the other to about 10. We went down through the 10 and selected what the board believed to be the top 3. And that's how you were called for an interview today. Here at this point, we will ask questions. There will be about 9 or 10 questions. We'd ask that you be succinct, to the point. Let us know what you think and your opinions about things. Don't hold that back or anything like that. Don't tell us what you think we might want to hear, but what you believe. We want to know about you. Okay. And so consequently, we'll begin the questioning at this time. Being president of the board, I get the pleasure of asking the first question. Can you give us an example or examples of your best professional successes?
I would give you 3 that I'm particularly proud of. While principal of Mount Pleasant High School, we were in academic trouble when I was hired on there as assistant principal. And in the 4 years I was there, 1 as assistant principal and 3 as principal, we were able to improve our math and our reading achievement scores and growth scores to the point that by the end of year 3, High Schools That Work, a high school reform organization, presented us with not 1 but 2 different awards for outstanding math performance and outstanding overall performance. Another aspect of leadership that I'm particularly proud of is while serving in my current role as Associate Superintendent of Schools in Lawrence County, Tennessee, the principals and we worked to increase our ACT scores, and to the point that each of the high schools improved their scores well over a point, which is statistically quite an improvement from one year to another to improve your overall composite that much. And thirdly, I was privileged to start a K through 12 alternative school. That was my first principal experience. And the charge I was given by the superintendent of schools when we started the schools, he said, I want you to be the best alternative school in the state. And we accepted that charge, the teachers and I did, and by the end of my tenure there, we were getting regular tour groups that were sent to us from the State Department. We had a group of students go and address the State Education Committee on reform of alternative education in Tennessee, and there were 2 of us that were inaugural members of the Tennessee Alternative Educators Association. I served a couple of terms as president there, and to this day that conference is still going on as a result of those efforts. So those would be 3 things I'm particularly proud of in my stint in education.
Thank you. Mr. Stringfellow, question 2.
Morning, Dr. Gunn.
Good morning.
Dr. Gunn, what is your concept of the roles of the board and the superintendent?
My concept is I work for you. I'm your chief employee, so to speak, and we work together to meet the needs of the students. Hopefully, everything we do is we remind ourselves of the question: is what we're doing today, is this initiative going to help students, and is this initiative going to help student learning? And we work as a team to make that happen. I keep you informed of what's going on in the district. Make sure that, that you're aware of any news that might potentially be embarrassing or negative, and make sure you know about it ahead of time. Make sure you're aware and apprised of where we are with academic goals that we've identified. Make sure that there are no secrets, that you're aware of everything that's going on in the district.
Thank you. Dr. Crenshaw?
Describe the relationship,
Okay. Describe the relationship that should exist between the superintendent and the board. What is your approach to establishing and maintaining this relationship?
Well, I alluded to that somewhat in the prior question, but open communication, making sure that there are just no surprises, no secrets. You're aware of what's going on all the time, and that we're working together. You know, we establish the goals, and that I report out regularly to you on whether we're meeting those goals for our school system.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Battles has a two-part question.
Dr. Gunn,
Yes, sir.
how would you address being designated as a low-performing or failing school, and what will you institute to improve the academic performance of those lower-performing schools?
I'm a strong believer in data teams, using teacher data teams to give regular, ongoing formative assessments, which are simply a fancy way of saying regular small test to see whether the students are learning the material. And then if they're not learning the material, tweaking what's going on so that the next go around they get it. Sharing that out in teacher teams, which are subject specific, sometimes grade specific, sometimes they span the grades, but generally with a subject specific team, and addressing whether the students are getting the material. And then as a larger component of that, having regular benchmark assessments to see if students are grasping larger components of the material. But I strongly believe in data teams to point us in the way that we're supposed to be going academically as a means of reforming the entire school.
Have you had an opportunity to make an assessment of the Mobile County Public School System, what conditions and what challenges that we face?
I have looked very closely at the documents that are out there in a public way. There are, you know, you're doing a lot of things great. There are some challenges. There are some gaps in achievement. There are some schools that are struggling more than others. So yes, I have had that opportunity. You're welcome.
Okay. Let's see, Mr. Harwell?
okay. What would be your goals and aspirations for our system?
Well, you all have done a great job in improving your graduation rate. I see that was an effort that you've been working on it for some time, and you've made some improvement. However, I venture to say, and I think I actually saw it online, some of you have gone on record to say you would like to increase that even further. So increasing that graduation rate is something that I've had experience in, and I definitely would share that I think that's important to any school system. I know it's important to the community just in terms of the, you know, Mobile is a very growing area in terms of jobs and economic opportunity. So that's something that I would like to work with you together upon. Would like to work with you to continue your career technical education. I'm a strong believer that career technical education begins at an early age, elementary-wise, developing career interest, seeing what children are interested in, that continuing in the middle grades with further exploration and beginning some preparatory career technical education classes. And then by the time you get to high school, I very much would like to see us take a look at having multiple dual enrollment, dual credit opportunities for our students while still in high school, to look at some early college options where possibly some of our students could even graduate with a high school diploma and a degree from either a career technical institution or a community college. Like to see us to have some international baccalaureate opportunities, some Cambridge opportunities. Like for us to have apprenticeships, job placement opportunities, So that would be a second thing I'd like to work with you up on. And then also would like to talk to you about school safety. I know that school safety is something that probably every school district in this nation, every community has some concerns and would like to address. I've had quite a bit of experience in that area. And those would be the three in particular. You know, early literacy, obviously, something I think any educator of any merit is interested in, and school safety, career technical education, and graduation rate in particular.
Thank you.
Dr. Foster,
Yeah.
School safety, would you be for teachers and administrators carrying guns?
Well, that's something I would really want to, I'd really want to study a great deal. As you know, that's a very controversial topic. Most law enforcement agencies are against that. Most of the major teacher groups have come out against, well, at least with a lot of questions, I'll put it like that. That's something I wouldn't venture to answer unless we had done a lot of study and we were absolutely sure that we were not getting ahead of any other group on that.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We're a little short in terms of, the state requires you to meet. Yeah, and I'll go ahead and take this one if you don't mind, Mr. Battles.
Go ahead.
The state requires you to meet 1 month's operating expenses in terms of kind of like a savings account. Sure. And those kind of things are, or that kind of thing was brought about as a result of many years, off and on, we would have proration. And for some school systems, getting to that point and staying at that point is difficult. It's been very difficult for us. We've had things that have impacted on that. And one, as an example, hurricanes. You know, you collect a certain amount of insurance, and then there's, beyond that, you have to pony up. So, how would you demonstrate the fiscal responsibility aligned with the budget to meet the greatest needs?
Well, I could assure you that I have looked at your budget. It's something I would want to study in great depth. A budget of the size that you have is something that you don't, you'd have to study in great depth to know particular answers. But I would want to make sure, I mean, the obvious answer is that our expenditures most closely aligned to students. You know, is this particular expense helping our students? Is it helping student achievement? I would certainly want to, at least with internal staff, look and see, our efficiency. Are there some areas in which we could take a look? Could we save some money here? I know there are various groups out there that are efficiency experts that will come in, and I have seen that work with some of my peers in education through the years. They've brought in an expert team. They've analyzed the entire operations of the entire district, guaranteed savings, and I've seen that work successfully as well. Those would be the initial steps that I'd want to take a look at, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stringfellow?
Dr. Gunn, please describe your transition approach for the first 6 months as superintendent.
I would want to do a lot of listening. I would want to talk to you all as a board and also individually and learn from you. I'd want to get out in our schools. I'd want to talk to the administrative staff there, the principals, the other staff members are there, the teacher groups, find out what their concerns are, find out what we're doing well, where we have some challenges, find out what the rough spots are. I'd certainly want to talk to the district office staff. You know, a system of this size that's going to take a while to get around, but I would want to listen as much as possible to really understand, you know, what the official story is and what some of the unofficial stories are of where we are and where we need to be headed. I'd also want to get out in the community. I'm a strong believer in management by walking around. And I've always found it very, very effective to get to work super early and get my quiet stuff done in the early morning hours, and by about 11 o'clock, I've probably had about as much of that as I can stand anyway, and to get out and start talking to people. And that's where you really find out what's really going on. And I have found that most people are very honored that you would simply ask them their opinion. And that's what I do for the first 6 months, just do a lot of listening in a very strategic way to make sure that I was getting around to all the different aspects of the community and the district.
All right, Dr. Crenshaw?
It's estimated that there would be 20,000 new jobs in Mobile area in the next few years. How would you ensure the relevance of education programs in preparing students for various career pathways to meet local needs?
Well, as I said earlier, I definitely would want our career technical education to start in the elementary grades and make sure we build up on that, middle school and high school. Also, we want to very much talk to the community leaders. What are they needing from our graduates? I would expect, just based on conversations I've had in other communities, they're going to talk to us about soft skills, saying they want our graduates to come with them with certain soft skills of showing up to work, getting along at work, staying off of cellular devices except at certain times, just a work ethic that's expected. But I'd want to listen specifically. Are there some specific areas in this area that our employers are looking for? I also like to talk to them just in terms of the specific jobs that are available and see if there are ways that we could partner with them to begin perhaps apprenticeships, maybe some job shadowing opportunities. Are there some partnerships with our local community colleges, our career technical centers, vocational centers that we could maybe institute some degrees or at least the beginning of degrees while still in high school? I'd want to meet the need of what those employers are, because I feel like it's absolutely pivotal to prepare our students for jobs of the 21st century that are there now and that are going to be there.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Battles?
Dr. Gunn, have you interacted with local, state, national entities and leaders to develop for support for quality public education? And what is your view upon the teachers and the administrators as far as due process of law and being treated fairly as union employees in the Mobile public school system?
Well, I believe very strongly in working with our teacher groups. That's where it happens, in the classroom, day in and day out. I was privileged for a number of years while in Dickson County Schools. The board chose me and two other administrators to be on the negotiating team for the board and working with the union, and still have very cordial relationships with those union leaders there. Carol Chandler being the long-standing president of the Dickson County Education Association. And in fact, if you were to give her a call today, she could speak to you of my supportive teachers, the fact that I always tried to listen to what their concerns were and to meet their concerns while also meeting the board's concerns, which can be sometimes a challenging issue, but I think she would speak very highly of my ability to do that.
Okay, Mr. Harwell?
Two parts here. Describe your experience in implementing strategic planning, and how would you prioritize for maintenance of our facilities and maintenance of our construction projects?
I would like to, I'm sure you have a building and construction maintenance plan, but I would want to familiarize myself with that, make sure that it is still very current, very relevant, and if that's something that you don't have, that's something I'd like to work with you to make sure there's an ongoing system of replacement of outmoded parts, outmoded HVAC units, outmoded whatever the situation is, to make sure we've got a systematic approach so it doesn't hit us all at once and we've got a crisis on our hands with some unexpected expenses, like planning there. Just like you would in a personal budget. We'd like to make sure that we budgeted for the buildings that we foresee. We'd like to work with our community leaders just in terms of the geographic growth of the system. Or the county, where's the growth happening, and make sure that we do everything we can to align our building plan, our building projects in line with where the growth is going to be. I'd say that'd be absolutely pivotal to do that.
Okay, did I skip any questions, Mr. Stringfellow? Did I?
No, sir, I don't think you did.
Thank you so much. Dr. Gunn, we have gone through some questions here, and you held to exactly what I said at the beginning with, you know, as Joe Friday used to say, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. And you stayed on target, and I appreciate that, and the board appreciates that.
Welcome.
We want to thank you for coming here for this process, being a part of this process, and to let you know that, you know, there were a lot of people who did apply, and you're one of the final 3. Now, as we have done with the other board member, with the other superintendent candidates, we've allowed them the opportunity to ask us some questions that they may wish to ask us. And at the same time, we will allow you that as well.
Okay. One question I had was, you know, if you chose to hire me, how would you evaluate my success? Let's say we're doing my evaluation next year about this time. How could I get an absolute A+ 100? What would that take?
All right, we have annually, we meet with the superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
We discuss with the superintendent, and Ms. Peak has brought us things that she feels that the school system needs to really take a hard look at and try to do during the course of the year. We provide input from our standpoint as well, things that we want her to do. And we put that into a plan, and she goes by that plan. Now, a year from then, that's part of her evaluation. The other kind of thing I think that the board tends to look at with a school system that's this size is how well that individual who represents the board and the school system, how well do they communicate with both the board and the community at large, with the local franchises that we have out there, our local schools, in other words. That's one of the very big things. Are we moving toward providing the excellence that we would want our own children to have in not just one school, but in every school, if we chose to send them anywhere? Sure. Are we moving toward that? Is this person the kind of person who is really good at selling the school system to the community? Mm-hmm. I think that's something else that we would look at. These kinds of things are, in my opinion, critical. Now I'm going to let each of the board members, beginning with Crenshaw to my right, respond.
Pretty much I concur with what Dr. Foster said about, you know, what we expected and what we're looking for. You know, again, having an effective, efficient management style is important in carrying out the day-to-day operations. We pay the superintendent a very reasonable salary. We want the superintendent to manage the system, and our goal is to implement and develop policy.
Mr. Stringfellow?
Dr. Gunn, just to elaborate a little bit on what Dr. Foster said, and you ask a very pertinent question because everybody's always concerned about evaluations, even for the board, okay. One of the things in the instrument that we use is with the goals that we establish with our superintendent, and we take a close look at them at the end of the year, is we try to reduce as much subjectivity as possible to make it more specific goal, and therefore we can see, you know, actual quantitative and qualitative examples that they've been accomplished and so forth. So we don't want it to be such a soft goal where, you know, there's so much discussion about it and so forth. So I think it's a pretty good instrument that we use. There would be no doubt. We've had reasonably good success with Ms. Peak and with her. So when we've agreed on the goals, and as Dr. Foster, our president, said, we've also indicated others. And it was a collaborative type way we've done it. So it gives us an opportunity to really look at to see whether we accomplish the things. And there's another side to this that there are all kinds of things, as you know, for being a superintendent or even an assistant superintendent, things that go on during the school year. Every day,
Sure.
there's something new, and you know, how you handle those kind of things for our system and so forth is vitally important like that. But I feel fairly confident that the system that we use provides us with a fair and equitable way of looking at how the superintendent ought to be evaluated. And if there are issues during the year and whatever, each and every board member has an opportunity to address some of those things during board meetings or even conversations with the superintendent. So there won't be a lot of surprises at the end and so forth like that. Thank you, Dr. Foster.
Thank you.
Mr. Battles?
In evaluating the superintendent, the only difficulty that I've had as my experience as a board member is that I've always disagreed with the process that we use because it does not reflect the individual board member's actual. If the majority say that this is what we say, if you say that the superintendent's been a great superintendent and the majority say that, then that's what they use as the evaluation tool. But I would like for it to be that each individual or commissioner will have the expressive idea to express what their concerns are, because we're not always in agreement on what the superintendent does or what it does, but we're facing a very difficult time as we move into the selection of the next superintendent. There are a lot of challenges, but it's very important that the superintendent don't keep secrets and try to get little cliques going, you know. Those are some of the most denigrating things that I feel. As far as the superintendent evaluation, I've always been against that because I think it do not reflect the individual opinion of the individual. If you're in dissent, you're really not in dissent because it's by consensus. If you get a majority rule, then that's what they put as the thing that goes out in the total evaluation of the superintendent, which I think is skewed. So we just want a superintendent who's going to be fair, one who's going to be approachable, and one more importantly, though, is going to have the minds of the students involved and the teachers. Our teachers and our students and our employees are our most valuable asset. They have to be treated with respect. Although we maintain a standard of operation, that standard operation has to also have some humility to it so that we could be human beings and dealing with the effect of our public education in Mobile.
Certainly. Thank you.
Mr. Harwell?
Yes. As the other guys have talked about the evaluation of our superintendent, it's very detailed for us, goal-oriented, and things are met. One of the things I like about the way we do evaluation is, and I'm going to ask you this question, one of the biggest parts of we have our superintendent do a self-evaluation. So I'm asking you, how would you like for us to evaluate you? What do you say is a success?
Whether we met or achieved upon goals. You know, if we lay out those goals, for example, you know, increased communication in the community. If I met those goals, that, you know, I've received a great evaluation. You know, increase academic performance, however we chose to define that. You know, if we hammer down, you know, what that looks like, if indeed we met those goals, then it's basically very goal-driven, very as objective as possible. It's always hard. You can't ever take the subjectivity out of any evaluation, but just as objective as possible.
Yes. And Dr. Farr, I'd like to add one thing, that also all of our superintendent goals reflect back to our mission statement. And so one of the things that we do look at is, in everything that we accomplish during the year, it goes back to the mission statement that's set forth for this board. and that the goals that we, as a board and the superintendent came up with goals, will meet those requirements. So it's a great evaluation, in my opinion, and of course, we like to hear what our superintendent, how she evaluates herself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And who was it that was touring you today?
So I don't see
Mr.
Mr. Atkins
Ackridge?
right now. Yeah.
Ms. Ackridge will continue to, now, we have an afternoon that's planned that's full that you can go through and make a presentation to each of the groups that we're going to have. We will
Sure.
also have, after the last, we'll have public comments, public input to the board, and the board will also accept, we'll have a commentary sheet for the public to use, and the board will accept comments. Now, the board makes the final decision. It's not a vote.
Certainly.
You know, the board makes the final decision, and since we are the elected representatives of the community, Dr. Gunn, we certainly appreciate your being here. We'll have lunch. What time is it that we're doing lunch today?
I'm ready right now.
Who selected the box lunches? I'd like to see you in the hallway.
All right, ready.
It's serious, on the serious side, too, we want to certainly thank Mr. Hack for helping to coordinate this whole thing, and Renee Phillips as well, for her doing her yeoman's work and trying to get everything out where it needed to be and to whom it needed to be and all that. And certainly thanks to each of you for your efforts on. I know there's a lot of other people involved too, but the two of you are sitting here, and so you get this since you were sitting here. Thank you.
Mr. Hack and Dave, they've been so hospitable from the get-go. So thank you all for that.
He won't get a
David is
raise.
from,
No, you get
from
no raise.
No raise.
Bila-Batra, which is in the,
That's what
okay,
he was
he's from
telling
Bila-Batra. I know his father very well, can report any kinds of issues that you
Okay.
may have with David.